Hey, it's Ricardo and welcome back to Battlestar Galactica Sin and Sacrifice. I'm playing an early press release as supplied to me by Slithering Games of the new DLC that seems to wrap up Season 1 of the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock storyline. Now notice I said Season 1. With Season 1 we've had quite a few changes, but in particular for this DLC we've got a Colonial Heracles and we've got a Cylon Gorgon ship added. Now the Colonial Heracles is a new ship, a heavy warship that emphasises power over finesse, where it isn't covered in layers of armour plating, it's lined with point defence turrets capable of sustaining high volume flak fields, so a good addition to the Colonial fleet there. Now, for the Cylon side, they're not going to be left out. The Cylon Gorgon is again a new ship for this DLC, a mobile support carrier featured with advanced squadron repair and support functions. A sophisticated ship, perfect for Cylon squadron tactics. Now, the ships of Battlestar Galactica Deadlock often get overlooked, but there's also a new inspection option for looking at the ships as well if you go into blueprints. Now, I've checked out the game, I've been playing the game quite a bit in its initial release and throughout all the DLC, and I think that the games are brilliant, the models are brilliant, they really do capture the essence of Battlestar Galactica, and as a result of this what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the ships that you can currently unlock, with the exception of the two ships that I've just mentioned, because unlocking those are going to come a little bit later on in the game, and I haven't advanced in this early release yet far enough to unlock them. But despite that, here we are, we're on the blueprint section. Let's take a look through the ship. I have got quite a few requisition points as a result of this, which means I can start unlocking some of the ships. But looking at the Battlestars, the first Battlestar, you get the Artemis, you get Minerva Battlestar, all these ships are realised in perfect detail within this game. Now, the Artemis Battlestar is one of the first Battlestars you're really going to get, the first major Battlestars. It can pack a heavy punch, it's got excellent radius range, which effectively means you can detect those enemies a bit further out, so you can lay some missiles down. FDL cooldown, 2 turns. Speed is quite nippy for a Battlestar, but then again it is a baby Battlestar. It's got front heavy turrets, it's got top Battlestar artillery, we've got bottom heavy turrets. You've got the option as well, right, of using guided missiles or other missile suites, whether that be nuclear weapons or torpedoes or whatever, and it does give you the option of having 2 Viper Mark 1s. Now here's the inspection version. Okay, we can have a look at the model within the blueprint section and have a good rotation around that ship. Now this may be familiar, it does look a hell of a lot familiar to the original 1970s Battlestar that we all know and love before the remake from Ron Moore. Now, this ship, this model, does bring back those retro memories for me, I have to say that, and it's great. Look at that, isn't that fantastic? Look at all those guns on the top. Ooh, brilliant. You can just know it'll lay down a little bit of damage. But it is an old design, and there are newer designs out there, especially now if you think of how it's evolved into the Jupiter class. This nod to the old 1970s versions of Battlestar and calling that the first Cylon War, I think, right, is genius. So that was the Artemis. Moving on to the Minerva Battlestar. Now this Battlestar is the predecessor to the post-war Mercury class. So the Mercury class, if you don't know what that is, that's what the Pegasus was, and that was a good old big beast. In fact, they called it the Bucket, which was Battlestar Galactica, that ship, and then the Beast, which was the Pegasus when they eventually found that. This thing is loaded. It's got 2 Viper squadron capability, and it's got the options to fire off 2 sets of missile salvos, so you could effectively change those into whatever missiles you want. You could have some torpedoes, 1 nuclear warhead if you had the money. You've got guided missiles. You could fit that out effectively how you want it. There's a penalty, mind you, it's not very good at flak damage and squadron evade. I do like this ship, to be honest with you. It's a big old beast, it's a heavy old beast. It has the reputation, I think, as well in the blurb of being a capital ship killer. it'll kill it dead. And look at that model there. Look, it looks a bit darker than the original Artemis there, see, you know, which is all nice and lovely grey. It looks dark grey, it looks evil. It looks like it's been designed to give a bit of damage. Now obviously with the newer Mercury class that we've seen in the realization from Ron Moore, there's a flight deck below the nacelles as well, not just on top. So there's 4 flight decks on the flight pods. But on this section, on this particular model, you've only got 1 each side. Loads of armaments as well, you know, but you can see it's a definite nod. Obviously in the Reimagination series, the back engine compartments are different, but then of course that is meant to be an advancement of the design. So, Minerva Battlestars. Minerva Battlestars. And of course you've got the Jupiter Battlestar. Now the Jupiter Battlestar we know now from the 2003 reimagination of Battlestar Galactica by Ron Moore. You know, the reimagination of the good old favourite Battlestar Galactica. This is a heavy old beast, not as manoeuvrable. It's got a radius range of 400 meters, but it can take 2 Viper squadrons and a Raptor. Okay, if you look back at the previous Battlestar as well, this has only got 1 bank of salvos for missiles. So whereas the previous version could really lay down some heavy fire, this is more advanced. It's a newer ship, more modern technology, nice weapons. You've got all those Battlestar artilleries front, top, bottom and on the broadsides. And looking at the model as well, well, it's instantaneously recognizable if you're a fan of the franchise. And if you're not a fan of the franchise, then what are you doing playing a Battlestar Galactica game? I've got to say, really good work on the model here as well. And when you get a bit of battle damage on it as well, it really does look the part. So even in, you know, the reimagination, this was an old design. Okay, but for here, it's brand new. Because like I say, we are at the turn of the first Cylon War. Very good model, I really do like it. Although, I do prefer the predecessor to the Mercury, the Minerva. I do prefer that. It's a good old ship as well. Looking at the other smaller ships, the other capital ships, we've got the Manticore Corvette. Really good for hit and run. Fast, cheap. Can't take a hell of a lot of damage. It's not designed to be out in space a hell of a lot. It's an escort. It's exactly what it is. Guns at the front, guns at the rear, but it can lay down some missiles as well. So it's quite good zipping in there. Hit and run tactics, zooming past those Cylons, getting them painted, laying down a little bit of damage and getting the hell out of Dodge. And circling around behind the rest of your other fleets as well, so you can start laying down some fire. Now the Berserk carrier does carry a Viper squadron, and it does have quite a few turrets as well. It's got a medium turret on the broadside. Now this is okay, there's no penalties. Advantages: turret range, good old turret range, turret accuracy, and the squadron evade. It's not designed to be out in space, it's a support craft, to be perfectly honest, and you use it pretty much early on in the game. A nice model as well, you can see all the guns on the broadsides, but so that means you do have to present the length of the ship, should we say, to your enemies when you're engaging, you know, your enemy forces. Now this provides a bigger target, but then again you can compensate that with the fact of having your Viper squadron in defense, and that's a pretty good tactic that I tend to use as well. So moving on, the Adamant frigate. Now the Adamant frigate has got guided missiles, it's got a missile silo which you can fit out again with different missiles, and it has the ability as well to hold a Viper squadron or squadrons. Having a look at that ship, it's a small, nimble, and it's your first sort of feel really of having a teeny weeny Battlestar in the game if you're starting out. You can see it's got all the undertones and designs of what the Jupiter class is, and you can probably tell it's been designed by the same old fella, that's Sinon Quaid, which turned out to be a bit of a turncoat in the first iteration of the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock game. Good little ship, handy for bulking up what effectively is your battle points in any fleet. Now, Celestial support models, you'll recognise these sort of ships. Now, what they can do, they can resupply your armour plating. They're effectively civilian ships that have been repurposed by the colonial fleet. Say they can re-add your armour plating, and they can also use supply raptors to go out there and start supplying your fleet with missiles. Or should we say munitions and ordnance. Now you'll notice it from the fleet from the Battlestar Galactica, you know, the ragtag fugitive fleet fleeing from the Cylons. It's these sort of ships, you know, like I say, civilian ships that have been repurposed. It's got the hangar bay, so the repair raptors and the resupply raptors can get out and resupply your ships. No armour, or very little armour, and none to speak of. You know, it's not a warship, is it? Let's face it. And, you know, weapons, none. Now look at this Ranger cruiser. I used to like these a hell of a lot. Now, it's got guns, front, bottom and broadside, heavy turrets on the front, so you can charge straight in there, firing missiles out from the side. You've got 2 ordnance silos that fire off by default guided missiles, but you can pack it with what you want, whether it's guided missiles or torpedoes as well. Pretty quick, to be fair, and a good range as well, so it's handy to keep these a little bit back and lay down missile fire against the advancing Cylon force. So effectively, you know, you keep them out of range. If anyone gets too close, well, then you can open up with those turrets. It's not entirely defenseless, but you know, it's not the sort of thing you're going to charge straight into battle with. I tend to keep these hanging back, laying down sort of long range missile battery at these ships while my other ships start engaging. Moving on, we got the Minotaur gunship. Now, no missiles here. No missiles at all, right? Now, Aerolon built this ship, and it's an old beast, but it stands for what Aerolon's all about, right? The fruit basket of the colonies is a big, heavy brute of a thing, the Minotaur. The bull, right? The bull on legs. What's it all about? Heavy turrets, virtually everywhere, but medium on the broadsides. So front, top and bottom you can lay down a hell of a lot of heavy fire. Not particularly fast, but not particularly sluggish, gotta say. You know, it's a brute force. And if you look at that model as well, see, you can see the placements of where the guns are. So you know you can just go driving in and lay down some heavy damage after your other ships that have got missiles have taken out all that armor plating. Send this in from the back lines, then plough through the middle, letting loose with those cannons, ripping the hulls of those Cylon ships to pieces. Now moving on to the Janus cruiser. That was released in one of the recent DLCs. I hadn't unlocked it, but have to say, look at that, 4 missile banks for your munitions. And it's got a medium turret on the front, and on the bottom it's got a heavy turret. Penalties, you know, turret accuracy, it's not about that, it's about the missiles. You know, firewall regen and marine strength. So, probably seen as an upgrade, perfectly to be honest, to the Ranger, in my opinion. Argue with me, put that in the comments, but keep it clean, we're all friends here. You know, Dreadus range of 4,000 meters, FTL cooldown of 2 turns, you know, speed 100 meters per second, a little bit on the sluggish side, you know, but it can lay down that big old punch. So perhaps the best idea for this ship is to keep it hanging back, you know, laying out those missiles, wearing down the hull plating, and taking your enemies out that way. Very pointy, very angular, you know, and you can tell it's going to do a little bit of damage, okay? Alright, so the Atlas carrier. I've played this quite a bit, especially with the reinforcement pack and things like this. It's exactly what it is. I mean, look what it does. I don't really see an awful lot of point to this. Yes, it's got medium turrets, top, bottom, and heavy turrets on the broadside. Penalties, you know, your control. It's not very good in a fight, but it has got advantages of squadrons, and things like that. You can pack 3 squadrons into this, so 2 Vipers and a Raptor, or whatever you want to stick in there. So it's effectively exactly what it is, an aircraft carrier. But what's the point of having one of these if you can have a Battlestar? Is that extra squadron worth it against the command points of having that sort of like stickability within a fight. I don't know. I'm not really impressed with this ship, to be perfectly honest. I have used it. Some people may say, if you use it, put it in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that Atlas carrier. So 2 Viper squadrons and a Raptor. And then, of course, you've got the mystery thing that I haven't unlocked yet. And, of course, we all know what that's going to be. That's going to be the Colonial Heracles as a combat ship, which is going to be something to behold. Looking at the fighters, look at that Viper Mark 1. What a lovely model that is as well. Reminiscent of the old 1970s Viper. Of course, Battlestar Galactica was brought out in direct competition against Star Wars, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as people who follow my channel will know. But I did have a soft spot in my heart for Battlestar Galactica. It was a compelling story. And here we've got the Raptors. Now, this type of Raptor was seen on the Reimagination series, Blood and Chrome, that had a pilot that dealt with a young Adama. You've got the gun window on the back, whereas all the modern Raptors haven't got that. And you've got that sort of spoiler wing configuration. You know, quite nippy. Got the sensor suite as well. I quite like it. You know, you can fire rockets, you can boost firewalls, you can board with Marines. Then you've got the Viper Mark II, which is the more advanced, obviously, from the original Mark I that we've seen in the Reimagination series. More sleek, more slimlined. Can do more damage, but can't take as much damage as the old Mark I. And that's one of the things with this. And you can't carry as many of them as what you can as of the old Mark I. So the damage is 0.4 on the Mark II. On the Mark I, 0.3. Squadron size on the Mark I is 10, whereas on the Mark II it's 8, so obviously you can't carry as many, and the hull points on the Mark I are higher, 40 towards the 34 of the Mark II. So you've really got to aim up if you want to deal a bit of damage, or you want the older sort of ship, the more retro ship. Sweeper squadrons as well. Now, what these do, they provide countermeasures. A little bit reminiscent of the Raptor model, you know, so it is what it is. I use these to sort of like jam up the Cylons sometimes. Use them quite a bit on the Anabasis missions, to be perfectly fair. So the ability, you can deploy chaff and you can do some disarming. And then you've got the Assault Raptor Squadron. Now look at this. You can paint targets and you can fire missiles. Missiles, not rockets. Okay, good stuff there. So squadron size of 3, hull points of 30, speed at 300 meters per second, and look at that. You've got the missile pods either side of the cockpit. You know it's out there to do a bit of damage, but you can tell it looks like a Raptor. But again, you know, it's a bus, and it was called that in Blood and Chrome. And I look at that and I see bus, or I see a 1950s sort of bubble car in that sort of design. Strange what you see when you look at some of these ships as well. Now with the munitions as well, you've got a selection of munitions, EM pulses, torpedoes, debris mine munitions, PCM munitions, and you've got armor plated munitions as well. Generation munitions of the EMP pulse, and the good old nuclear munition, of which you can only have one of, unfortunately. Well, per missile stack. And if you think with some of your ships, if you've got the ability to carry 4, like what you can with a Janus, you think, well, oh yeah, that might be a good idea, that of perhaps having a few missiles in there. Either way, my favourite model of this, as I've said, is the predecessors of the Mercury class, the Minerva, you know, as the predecessors of the Pegasus. I like that model, perhaps even more so than the original Battlestar Galactica. What's your favourite ship? Let me know in the comments. Again, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, Sin and Sacrifice is out on the 19th of March. I've been checking it out with the pre-release. Thank you very much again, once again, Slithering Games, for that pre-release. If you haven't done so, do me a favour, and you like what you're seeing, click that like and subscribe button, and that'll let you know when I'm putting stuff on YouTube. If you also click that notification icon and ring that bell. There's more Battlestar Galactica Sin and Sacrifice videos coming. Thank you all very much for support, and thanks for watching. So check out for more videos in the series. Check out the videos on Subnautica, Below Zero. We've also got more videos on Elite Dangerous, huge back catalogue there, and some also previous videos on Battlestar Galactica Deadlock and Anabasis, the other DLC.